Assalamu alaikum students. Here we are going to deal with the question that has appeared in June 2020. The question is, were the policies of Aurangzeb the main reason for the decline of Mughal Empire? It's of 14 marks and we are going to attempt it right now. Now, as per requirement of the Cambridge International, we are going to start our answer with the simple statement that is the level 1, which may let you get 1 to 2 marks. You may start like Aurangzeb was the last great Mughal emperor in India. He was known for his strict Islamic policies, or by 18th century Mughal Empire had started to show the signs of decline for which several factors are responsible. You can go for either statement or you may write on your own, but you will notice that in the first statement I have emphasized more on Aurangzeb because the question is based on Aurangzeb's policy first of all. As far as the second part is concerned, the second simple statement is concerned, I have emphasized on general description of the decline of Mughal. You may go for either of them. Now level 2 is based on the identification of the reason which is mentioned in the question. As the question mainly focuses on Aurangzeb's policy as the main factor behind the decline of Mughal, so we are going to highlight some of the problems that had emerged during the time of Aurangzeb. So I have started like Aurangzeb had reintroduced jizya tax, which was very much disliked by the Hindus, and it was considered discriminatory. And then they felt that it was an attempt to convert them to Islam because only the Muslims were exempt from payment of jizya. Also, Aurangzeb was involved at that time in long wars, and a lot of expenditure was used from the treasury. So to fill the treasury, people felt that it was an excuse. And secondly, Aurangzeb was frequently away from the capital, because of which he could not see whatever was going on in the center. So this loosened his control in the center. This was another reason. And further, he fought long, costly wars that had drained the treasury. This is also one of the factors that had brought about the decline of Mughal according to this perspective. Now move to the other side. Now we are going to justify that Aurangzeb alone was not the reason behind the fall of Mughal. So for this, we are going to highlight some of the measures that were not responsible. This is taken as counter argument. We are going to highlight that Aurangzeb's policy were not responsible alone. The other side of the picture is that he also abolished a large number of other taxes that was applicable to the whole population, and he was blamed for destroying temple, but this was not the case because he had destroyed only those temples which were built in places of mosque. Also, he had made huge monetary contribution in the construction of temples, and which has been mentioned by many historians. Further, he had shown justice to the whole population, Muslims and Hindus alike. Whenever there was a need to punish a Muslim, he implemented it. And he was the last great Mughal who kept the empire intact after his death. There was no one of his caliber to keep the empire intact. If you will write Aurangzeb's policies from both perspectives, you are going to get at least 7 marks. Further addition of counter arguments will enable you to get more marks, up to 13. Now we are moving to the second counter argument, that may be growing power of nobility. Not alone Aurangzeb was responsible, there were other factors involved, like the nobility who had enormous wealth which had made them pleasure seeking. This weakened their loyalty with the emperor, and many had their own private loyal armies, and they were used in rebellions against the center. Center means Delhi, and Mughal Empire had weakened internally due to this. Definitely that encouraged rebellion and outside invasion as well. So emperors were unable to control these rebellions. That's why the empire became weak. Now another counter argument that may be absence of law of succession, which was definitely a main reason behind the fall of Mughal Empire. Because of this, long wars were fought in which a lot of expenditure took place. So there was no law of succession among the Mughals, and princes used to fight against each other for the throne after the death of the king. Huge sums were wasted in these disputes, human resource as well as man-made resources. When Shah Jahan fell ill in 1657, we have given one example here that all four sons waged a campaign of succession to the throne, and this had greatly affected the integrity of the empire. Keep this in mind while writing counter argument. You must start with however, moreover, with each counter argument. Now we are going to start another counter argument. You may start like moreover, due to the complacence, Mughal army's expertise decline as they were no longer effective fighting force. This is declining military expertise and outside invasion. Now you are talking about the outside invasion, that when Persian king Nadir Shah invaded the empire in 1738, he sacked Delhi, took huge amount of gold and the peacock throne. Also, Ahmad Shah Abdali from Afghanistan came and added Kashmir and Multan to his possession. Marathas also had gained considerable strength in southern India, and Aurangzeb alone had taken 25 years to fight Maratha forces. That's why he was away from the center most of the time. His weak successors, when Aurangzeb had died, when they had come to power, the weak successors, they were defeated by Marathas, who had replaced the Mughals as the most powerful force in India. And these all invasions showed that how weakened the Mughal Empire had been, and Mughals were unable to stop these invasions. Also, there was one more reason for the decline of Mughals, and you will write it as a counter argument that the administration was quite weak because of the extension. The empire had extended to an extent which was difficult to administer because there was no media at that time, there was no effective check and balance. Emperors could not learn on time what was going on the other side of the empire because it was too huge to monitor. So this encouraged nobles on the other side to strengthen their control in their own areas because of having their own private armies, and they usually rose in rebellion against the center. And even Aurangzeb had established the Mansabdari system to keep a check on them, but it did not work well. Now we are coming to the last counter argument. This is the most important factor behind the decline of Mughal, that is the arrival of the British, because the British had been there as traders in India, and they were looking at everything what was going on, and they had seen the weaknesses of the empire since long, so they were very well aware of the internal weaknesses and had taken advantage of it. British had already established trading centers in India during the time of Shah Jahan, and they had seen the weakening condition of the empire, and they had noticed the absence of military expertise among the Mughals, and they had also noticed that they were pleasure loving, and some of them were unfaithful, especially the nobility class. So they had sided with the British whenever they wanted to have monetary gains or in terms of getting more power. The British had adopted the policy of divide and rule, and they had made some alliances with the powerful nobles against the ruler, and in this way they were able to take control of most of the areas in the Indian Empire. Now we are done with the arguments. We will come to the judgment that will enable you to get 14 marks. Now you may write your own viewpoint based on your judgment. What do you think is more responsible for the decline of Mughals? In this slide, I have given my viewpoint, which can be summed up as follows: that in view of the factors mentioned above, it can be said that almost all factors combined contributed to the fall of the Mughal Empire. Remember, it's better to keep a balanced approach, but you may highlight one of the factors as more responsible. Till Aurangzeb was alive, even all these factors were prevalent in the society, but they did not let the empire to fall. But after his death, the Mughals who had come to power were not of his caliber and could not manage the extensive empire. And in my opinion, the weak successors of Aurangzeb were mainly responsible. The other factors had just facilitated the fall of the empire, because the arrival of the British, the weaknesses in the nobility and the luxurious lifestyle, even the declining military expertise had not contributed to the fall of empire till Aurangzeb was alive. But after death, this pace was accelerated and brought about the decline of Mughal Empire. So you may have this kind of viewpoint or you may differ. It's up to you. But the viewpoint should have a valid argument.